Welcome everyone, my name is Jake Minette, and today I'm going to show you how to do dynamic parameters within Tableau. If you've used Tableau for any amount of time, you know the power of parameters. You also know that their one limitation, one of their largest limitations, is that they are static, and you're not able to uh, dynamically update them using any type of a formula or a data pull. If you want to update them, you have to do it manually. This is a number one request from Tableau, and it's been a couple years now, and I still haven't seen it, and I don't see it in version 10. So I decided to make this video and show everyone how I've gone through and dynamically updated parameters in my workbooks. This is not it's not a simple process. It takes there's a couple moving pieces here, but hopefully I've done some of the hard work for you, so all you'll have to do is install a few applications, update the scripts, and you'll be off and running. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to go through today with this training is, first of all, the required applications that you'll need to make this work. We're going to show you how to update a workbook using PowerShell, how to automate the download and upload of a workbook from Tableau server, and some advanced methods for updating parameters. As far as the required applications, Tableau Desktop. This has been tested with 9.2 and 9.3. I don't see why this wouldn't work in earlier versions of Tableau. You'll also need Tabcmd. Tabcmd is part of the Tableau server software, but you do not need Tableau server installed on the machine where the scripts run. All you need is Tabcmd. And you can grab that application out of your wherever you have Tableau server installed. It's just a file that you would have to install, or you can download a trial version of Tableau server, grab the Tabcmd from there, and install it wherever you're going to be running the scripts. And lastly, you'll need PowerShell 3.0 at least. PowerShell scripts must be enabled on the local machine. I'll include a link at the bottom of the video to the Microsoft site that you can download the package that has Tableau, PowerShell 3. I believe it even has PowerShell 4. So those are the applications that you'll need. As far as why parameters, well, we use parameters for advanced filtering. It's really the only way you can apply filters easily across data sources. And I use them mainly for stop and start dates, since I do a lot of reporting on sales. The default date control within Tableau doesn't really cut it sometimes, and I need to have a specific stop and start date. So that is why I mainly use parameters within Tableau. It's also the reason why I need to dynamically update them, because I don't want to go in and update my dates to be yesterday every single morning. So let's go ahead and dig in here, and we'll show you the end result. So our first example is going to use the Superstore workbook, which is part of the Tableau samples. This is, I have the commission model dashboard up right now. If you want this Superstore, this is installed as an option when you install Tableau server, so you can get it from Tableau. But we're going to focus on this commission model dashboard, and we're going to look at this base salary number right here. This is something you can play with in the dashboard if you wanted to see the effective base salary on the overall compensation. You can do that easily. But the problem is that when a new user comes in and they come into the commission model, every time they open this up, it's going to start at $50,000. Let's say we wanted to update that to a different number. Well, what we would have to do is actually download this workbook, open it up in Tableau Desktop, or open it up in the Edit Online, and we would have to update that parameter, and then save the workbook, upload it back to Tableau server. I'm going to show you how to do that programmatically. I'm going to show you the end result first. I feel kind of generous, so I'm going to give everyone a raise here, and we're going to change their default base salary to $75,000. So let's go ahead and I have a scheduled task. I'm just going to run that manually. takes about 30 seconds or so. Well, not even that long. And now, if I come back in as a new user, or I go to the commission model, and my base salary is now $75,000. So let's, how did I do that? Well, let's go ahead and jump into the script, and I'll show you the this kind of step-by-step through the script that I use. I'll show you how that actually works. So here is the script. You'll find it in the GitHub that I have a link down at the video. But this is the script for dynamic parameter salary. So it uses that the Superstore workbook. And kind of a step-by-step of this script, the first thing that we do here is, this is a PowerShell script, so if you're not familiar with PowerShell, I wasn't familiar with PowerShell until I started doing this, so it's not that difficult to learn. I advise using the PowerShell ISE program that comes with PowerShell when you're editing these scripts for your own personal needs. But it's fairly easy to learn and get installed. You will have to update your PowerShell settings to allow PowerShell scripts on your local machine. You can Google how to do that pretty easily. But once you got PowerShell enabled, go ahead and download this script. And right here we have a couple things. This just sets the version to the latest version. It requires version 3. We've got a couple assemblies that we're adding here. These are basically going to allow the script to use an assembly that is basically a zip program, so we can easily unzip and zip programs. So what we first do is set up a couple variables. I've got the Tableau server right here. It's on my local box. You need to have an admin login, the username and password. This right here is to set your local path variable to where the Tabcmd program lives on your local machine. So once you get Tabcmd installed, you can go to, you just Google Tabcmd, it'll show you some of the basics of how it works. Once you have that installed on your local machine, you just need to add a reference. If it's not set up in your path already, you can just add this, and it'll add it to your path temporarily. Then we have a few directories that we need to create ahead of time. Or actually, this will create them. If you don't already have these folders created, the script will create these for you. Definitely update these to wherever you would like the working part of this script to take place. Right now I just have it under an automation folder. A couple things you'll also need is the short workbook name and the full workbook name. What that means is Superstore is it's the same for both of them because it doesn't have any spaces in it. But if you look at if we take a look at another workbook that has a space in it in the name, this one is called Sales Performance. Sales Performance would be considered the long name with the space in it. But if you look up here, as far as Tableau is concerned, it is Sales Performance without a space. So that's what I mean when I say the long name and the short name. This up here in the URL is the short name. This right here is the long name. Let's go back to our PowerShell script. So we've got you'll have to update this right here with whatever your actual workbook name is. This is just a little bit of work on dealing with how Tableau is set up. If you didn't know, when you download a Tableau workbook, it downloads it in the TWBX file type. That is basically just a zip file. It's just a zip file with the Tableau workbook and any included data extracts. So you can use any old zip program on a TWBX and turn it into a TWB and vice versa. This next right here is just creating these directories if they don't already exist. And then it is removing any existing objects in that folder structure. So don't keep anything in there except for what you're what you're using this, except for this process, because every time it runs through, it'll delete whatever is in these directories. The next step right here is logging in to your Tableau server using Tabcmd. So using the variables you set in the first part of the script, it logs into Tableau server. Right here, this Tabcmd get is downloading a specific Tableau workbook to one of the locations that we have set up previously. This line is using that compression assembly to extract the TWBX folder to one of the directories. So it'll extract it as the Tableau workbook and any of the associated data extracts that are with it. Now, this part right here is where it gets a little bit complicated. This is the XML part of the script. So a Tableau workbook is really just an XML doc when you get down to it. So the guts of the script, what we're actually doing is looking in the XML of Tableau and updating that XML to whatever we would like it to be and saving that workbook. So let's go ahead and take a look at this workbook and see what it looks like in XML. Okay, so I have the Superstore workbook here. And what I'm going to do is actually open this in a text editor. You can use whichever you prefer, but I open this up in Notepad++. And you can see that this is what a Tableau workbook looks like. It's just XML. And the portion that we are interested in is the parameters portion. So what you'll need to do, the parameters are under the data sources node. So if we come down here through the data sources, it has the parameters data sources through here. And we're going to try and find our base salary, which is the first parameter. So this section right here of the XML is what controls the base salary. And a couple things that we're going to have to look at is we're going to need to find what the name of the parameter we're interested in is. So in my experience, most of the Tableau workbooks that I've seen, this name right here is not so pretty. It's usually just parameter 1, parameter 2, parameter 3. But in this example, it is named pretty well. It's named base salary. And what we're going to change is this value right here. Right now it's set to 75,000. It's funny, if you look down here, Tableau actually has another attribute called formula that is not used at all. So they do have plans, I think, to do something with parameters that is dynamic, but it's just not there yet. So these are the important parts of this, though. Is the parameters section that we need to find this within the XML. Once we find this, then we're going to have to find the specific node for our parameter or parameters that we need to update. So translating this into what we need to do in the script is we'll go back to our PowerShell script. And what we'll do here is we're creating a new XML object. And then we are setting that or loading that XML object with the unzipped version of our Tableau workbook, so the .twb file. Then what we're doing is we're traversing the XML nodes, and I'll be the first to admit I'm not an expert at this, but this is how I've done it in the script. Feel free to update this to your needs. But the first step is to first look into workbook and then data sources and then data source and find that node where the parameters live. So that's, of course, we start at workbook, work down to data sources, data source, find parameters. So we're on this node right here. And then we traverse a little bit deeper and we find the specific node that we're looking for. So like I said, in this case, the name of the parameter in the Superstore workbook that we're changing is called base salary. So we're going to set that to base salary. And right now it's set to $75,000. We're going to change that just for our own purposes to the, we'll make that be $60,000 this time. So, okay, so our new value is going to be $60,000. The next step in the script is simply saving the Tableau workbook. So we're just saving that TWB file with our new value for the parameter. The next line here is using that same compression assembly to take that TWB folder and its associated data, and we're going to zip that up and put it into a new directory. Then the final two lines right here, this line is to take that new TWBX folder that we just zipped, and we're going to send that up to Tableau. You can look in the Tabcmd instructions on Tableau's website, get a little bit more information about this publish command, but it's fairly straightforward in this example. We've got the complete workbook is what we're uploading to, or the name, the directory that we're uploading. It's actually just a zip file that we're uploading. Then the full workbook name, we have to tell it a couple switches right here. Tell it this right here is the project that we're uploading to. If we want it to show tabbed, if we want each sheet to show as a tab, which we do in this specific example. If you do have a database connection, you will need to specify that database connection here with the user and the password. And then this is simply just logging out of Tabcmd, and you are done. So let's go ahead and we're going to run this script within the ISE and see what we get. So we hit F5, you can see the progress, downloading the workbook, made the XML update, and now it is sending it back to Tableau, and we're done. So we go back to our Tableau server, and we're going to go back to our Tableau samples project, go into Superstore. If everything worked, our commission model should be $60,000 for the base salary. And there you go. So that is the example using the Superstore workbook. The next example we're going to do is kind of the more common one, reason why I use the dynamic parameters, and that is for updating dates when I'm using a date parameter. So I have created a very, very beautiful visualization right here for sales performance. I have this in my GitHub, so that'll be on the link at the bottom of the video as well, so you can download this specific workbook, see what it looks like on the inside. But this is a very, very simple workbook that just shows a start date and an end date. You can see if I change this end date, it'll update the data to whatever the right date is. But the problem is whenever you have anything that uses a date parameter like this, when you come back into it, that date is not going to change. It's always going to be like the date when I uploaded this workbook was the 1st through the 16th. Well, as an end user, it's not a good experience to come into a workbook and have to remember to always change that date. If you just want to see yesterday, or a lot of the reports that I show are either defaulted to the current month, the current year, or the last 7 days, whatever your needs may be, it is a pain to update this date. So the other script that I have is going to dynamically update these dates to the 1st of the month and the previous day. So let's take a look at this this script. I'm going to run a version of the script that's going to update this this workbook here. So this script is called the dynamic parameters dates. Everything in here is pretty much the same except for a couple pieces. The short name and the full name are different, like we talked about before. Sales performance is the short name, that's in the URL. Sales performance with the space is the long name. That is what you view when you're going through the project. You'll need both. And everything here is exactly the same through this whole section. All of this is the same. We're doing the exact same through here. The only difference, we get a little bit different when we open up this workbook in the XML version, though, because the parameter names are going to be different, and we're going to have to update them in a different way. So this is going to dynamically update them. So let's take a look at this workbook. Well, let's run this first so we can look at the workbook, and I'll show you that it actually does work. So as we saw before, the dates were the 1st through the 16th. Now when a user comes in, looks at their sales by date range, it's going to be the 1st and the 27th. So that's today is the 5/28, so I'm just doing the previous day. So let's take a look at the XML so you can get a better idea of how to update this script for your needs with your specific workbook. So I have this sales performance in the TWD format. I'm going to open this in Notepad. And so the two parameters that we were looking for are my start and end date. So like I said, usually the parameter names, the actual name is not very pretty that we need in Tableau. So if we look here, you can find that it's very much the same. We go to workbook, we find data sources. The first data source is always going to be the parameters section. So this is the node that we're looking for. Within this node, I find I'm looking for the caption. So I've got my start date right here. So I know that's the section that I'm looking for. And the name of the start date, the internal name within Tableau is parameter 1. You can see right now it's set to the 1st. And if we look for, then it's got my sales country in here. This is another parameter that we don't care about. The other parameter we do care about is my end date. That one, the name is actually start date copy, which is pretty common for Tableau to have the internal names. If you use the copy function, it likes to just keep that name right there. So this value is the 27th. So these are the updates that we're going to need to make. We're going to need to know the name for this parameter and this parameter right here. So within the script, what I'm actually doing is I'm setting a couple variables right here. This one is just using a kind of a date add to get yesterday's date, put it to a format like this. The second is getting my start date, which this is going to get me the first day of the current month. Put it to the format that we need, which is that $, and then year, month, date. Then the XML part of this is that I'm finding my parameter 1, which is the internal name for my start date parameter, setting that parameter 1 equal to my start date variable, and then finding my end date, which the internal name is start date copy, setting that value for start date copy to my end date, saving my workbook, and zipping it up, sending it up to Tableau. So let's go ahead and we'll change this to show you that it really does work. And I'm going to, instead of setting this to yesterday, I'm going to set it to 2 days ago. Go ahead and save this. I'm going to close out this so I don't get any errors. And I'm going to run this again. Okay. Now, when I come back into sales performance, I will have a start date of the 26th, or excuse me, an end date of the 26th. So Spain didn't make any sales. Sorry, Spain. But that's the most useful, part of this process, I think, is for updating date parameters within Tableau. We do this all the time now. Because now our users have a much better experience. You can just open up that workbook, you can set up subscriptions to it, and it'll work just like you want it to. But you can see that it opens up a lot of possibilities on how you can update your workbooks dynamically for those parameters. One last thing I'm going to show you is also within this sales performance workbook that I have on my GitHub, is how to update a parameter that is a list of either it's usually you can load it from a specific dimension or a hard-coded list. If you want to dynamically update those types of parameters, you can do that as well. So if we take a look at, let's go ahead and open this sales performance in Tableau. All right, so I've got a parameter here that is sales country. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and describe this parameter. You can see the allowed values are United States or Canada. Okay, so this is what I had originally in my my workbook, and what I would like to do is to dynamically update this list based on a database poll. So say that I have a MySQL or a SQL server that has the data that I want filled into this parameter. You can do that as well. So the data that I have is in a SQL server. If I take a look at that, let's go. And I have a very simple table in here, just called country. And right now I have just 5 countries in here: United States, Canada, Mexico, Spain, Germany. When I look at my workbook here, the sales country, that is the drop-down that uses the country parameter. I've got my 5 countries in here. Let's say that we wanted to start selling to a new country. Let's say we're going to go ahead and sell to Russia. So, okay. So now I have my one more country added in there, and I want that to show up in my my Tableau workbook in that using that country parameter. Usually to do this, I would have to download the workbook, open it up, add that manually. What we're going to do is actually do that through PowerShell. So the last script is going to be the SQL list script. A little bit more complex because we're creating a connection to a database, and then we're updating the workbook with a list parameter. So everything here is the same as the previous workbooks. Sales performance, everything through here, all the same, until we get into the database section. This section right here is just logging into a local SQL instance that I have on my box. Username, password. This is my SQL query. Very complex. Select country from country. Setting up the connection, username, password, executing that. Excuse me. Executing that connection and filling up the data set with my results, which will be my one new country. Closing the connection. All of this is the same. It gets a little bit more complicated with this section because we're going through and we're updating a different. We're not just updating a value. We're actually adding new members into the XML node. So if we take a look at what this workbook looks like in XML, again, open it up in Notepad++. We go from workbook, data sources, data source, find our parameters. You can see right here, this is the section for my sales country parameter. Right now it has these 5 members: States, Canada, Mexico, Germany, and Spain. What we're actually going to be doing is taking this section right here, deleting it out, and filling it in with whatever is in our new SQL poll. So that's what in the PowerShell script we're doing right here, is we are finding our country parameter. In this instance, the country parameter is called parameter 2. And then we're taking our data from our SQL poll, and for each row that we have is we are inserting a new XML element into our document. So it'll create a new member for each one of the countries. And then we're also updating the value for the country, the default value, which is right here this would be the default value. We're updating this as well to the last one that we get. This is obviously, there's, it's not very hard, and if there's 0 records, you'll probably get some errors, so you might want to spend some time hardening this part of the script, but it shows you the potential for what you can do. This section is the same. We're just updating the date again to the 1st of the month and and yesterday. So let's go ahead and I'm going to close this out so I can run this script, and I'll show you what the difference in the XML and in the actual Tableau workbook is. So we're going to go ahead and run this since we've inserted our new country, Russia. And there we go. Now, if we take a look at our sales performance workbook, we come back into our sales by date range. If we look at our sales country, now we've got Russia in our dropdown. There you go. And when we if we open up the same workbook in the Notepad++, there's Russia as our new member value. So there you go. I mean, that's what you can do with Tabcmd and Powershell to dynamically update your parameters. I hope this has been helpful to you. A couple words of thanks. This wouldn't have been possible without my good friend Ben Sullins. You can see him at bensullins.com. He's got great tips for not just Tableau, but BI and data in general. Definitely subscribe to his channel. Also, Mike Roberts at Pluralsight. He actually had a script that was doing some work with the data sources within Tableau that I used as my my base for the idea for making this happen. So shout out to Mike Roberts at Pluralsight and Ben Sullins at bensullins.com. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and hit me up on GitHub or at Jake Minette at gmail.com. Thanks for your time, and happy Tableauing.